All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. I'm so glad that you're tuning in for this episode because you get a two for today. You get two for the price of one. Normally, I charge you an outrageous amount to sit back and listen to one guest. Today, though, I'm giving you two, and it's free. That's right. Just sit back and be wowed with this brilliance that you're about to listen to. Today, I've got two amazing people joining us on the show. You're going to see that there's a connection, there is a relationship, there is a little familiarity between the two of them, and hopefully that means we're going to get some real dirt and get some real juice, because here on Lasting Learning we love to find out what really makes people tick, and I have a feeling these two are going to squeal on each other a little bit. Today, I've got some friends that are going to be joining us, telling us a little bit about who they are, what makes them tick, and hopefully what makes the other tick as well. So today, we are going to hang out a little bit with my friends, my new friends, my new soon to be best friends. The Hamiltons are here. No, not those Hamiltons. But today we have Katherine. Yes, I'm doing ladies first. Katherine, aka Katie, aka Kate. We'll see what she wants to go by today, because it seems like it's all three at any given moment. And Jared Hamilton. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
So let's start with Jared. I know you want to say hi to everybody too, but I'm going with Katherine. She spoke up first. So Katherine, Katie, what do you want people to be calling you? And does it matter?
Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I use Katherine because it's on all my professional documents. So I use it for the professional side. Um, my husband calls me Katie, and I introduce myself half the time as Kate. So,
okay. So is this going to be a professional episode? Am I calling you Katherine, or are we family already? What is
you can call me Kate.
Kate? All right, look at that. We're family already. All right. So Kate it is. And Jared, you now have permission to speak. Feel free to say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us aboard again, Dave.
Absolutely. Hey, do you guys mind just other than just telling us your names and what we should be calling you, tell us a little bit about yourselves and what makes you tick, where you are, what brings you to this podcast tonight?
Well, I'm going to go first this time, Katherine, if that's okay. Well, my name is Jared. I mean, I've been a teacher in various roles for, close to 15 years. I've worked all over Western Canada, Alberta, British Columbia. I had an amazing opportunity back in 2015 to actually go teach in England. So I had a 3-year adventure over there where I got to go teach mathematics and just sort of learn a whole different way of how education works and how we do things. That's when we came back to work in British Columbia, and we recently got an opportunity to move down to Dallas, Texas, and that's where we've been working for the last 6 months. That's sort of the professional side of me as an educator, and I've done everything in terms of mathematics, STEAM, computer programming. The funner side of me I find is, I'm a gamer. I love playing my own video games, Nintendo Switch, stuff like that. I'm really big into hockey. Unfortunately, I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan, so we had a bit of a heartbreak there in the NHL playoffs a few weeks ago, but Montreal is still keeping the dream alive that the cup may come back to Canada.
Katherine, just for the record, I want to go back. Come back to Canada. You're not
come
there.
back to Canada.
Go back to Canada.
It's been a very long time since the Stanley. It's been a very long time since the Stanley Cup has been across our border. Yeah. Katherine and I met in education. That's when we were working together in a small time. So, I mean, we hit it off right off the bat. We just started working together and I guess doing other things together. And one thing led to another. 3 years later, we're married. 3 years later, we have our first kid. A few years later, we're in England and we're having more kids. And then we came back to British Columbia and we had some other great opportunities to do some projects together and work as sort of team teachers with the students that we were serving in the community.
Oh, okay. All right. So awesome background. Katherine, I'm going to you for the dirt. How did you guys really get together? Because I feel like there's more to this than, hey, we were just kind of doing some things in education and just kind of happened. There's more to it, right?
Well, he helped me move in my dishwasher.
Okay, there you go.
It was small town. There was a pretty big turnover in teaching staff. It would have been my second year's teaching, his first, and we lived in the same apartment building. So we were in the same school. It was a K-12 school, and we'd done some of the professional development stuff as the whole kind of collaboration at the beginning of the school year. And I don't like washing my dishes by hand. I have that aversion my whole life. And so I bought a portable dishwasher, and he had a truck.
There you go. It's a truck is a way to a woman's heart every single time. I've heard a few country songs that profess to that, at least. So so hanging out in the Dallas area now, do you still have a truck?
Yes.
Okay.
We still have a truck.
Fair enough. Because, talking about hockey, you're gonna have to find that little niche of people that are hockey fans down there. But if you drive around with a truck, you're gonna be getting friends like it's nobody's business. That's awesome. That's cool. All right. So Canada to England, back to Canada to Texas with kids in tow. How many kids?
We have three.
We have
our daughter is 8.5, and then our two boys who were both born in England, are turning 6 in a couple weeks and just turned 4.
Wow. Okay. So I've got 4 kids myself, and I've done the traveling back and forth from Michigan to Florida and back again thing, but that's all within one country. I got it. I'm just going to go here a little bit and talk the family side, and then we'll dive into some of the professional stuff. Easy decisions, difficult decisions to move the family across the Atlantic and back. What was it about it, and what made you say, yep, let's do it? Uh-oh. And if you can't see this, people, they are staring each other down like, who's going to answer this one? There are 2 different versions to this story, so don't worry. You'll both share.
I think a lot of it at the time for myself when I took the job in England was looking at stability. Alberta at the time was a really competitive market. I always found that I was having work, but it was sort of like you start in one school, you go to another. And, I remember joking with one of my principals saying, yeah, I've been a teacher for 6 years. This is my 6th year being a first-year teacher. Because I'm going to be going and restarting everything again. And so when the opportunity came and it was like, well, it's a contract job, so we're going to be holding on to you for 3 years. That's your visa. And then, there was the mention of you're going to work in this school. You're going to work with these people. You're going to serve these kids. That was really appealing for me at the time, thinking, okay, so I'm going to have a sense of stability here. And, there were some other fun things about it. Like I looked at it as an adventure. We're going to get to go across the Atlantic. We're going to be in a whole new country. We're going to be a stone throw away from so many things in Europe that we should be able to go visit and do. So, I saw this as just a great opportunity for my own professional development, but also our personal development.
Same story for you, Katie, Catherine?
I'd say at first it was really hard because I'm a hoarder. As I'm a teacher, I'm a hoarder. So I had some backstory on that. I had 5 crates, like those big honkin' tubs of old curriculum that I moved from place to place to place. Actually, no, let me rephrase that Jared moved for me from place to place to place. And when we moved to England, I ended up throwing the entire thing in the garbage because it was old curriculum, so it wasn't used anymore, and no one was going to take it off my hands. So it was hard, because coming to that realization of saying, you know what, you really don't need this. And at the same time, it was therapeutic, because it really did shift the way that I come into a school and how I work with my resources and how I digitize everything, because then it's a click of the button and I print what I need.
From obstacle to opportunity is what I'm hearing. You were forced to adapt, forced to change, forced to innovate. But then you went back home and then came to the States, moved to Texas, which I shouldn't have even said that's the States. We all know, now, Texas is its own animal. It's its own country. It's its own beast. But you're there now. What was the bigger shelter shock or change, England or Texas?
I would definitely say Texas was a bigger shock. We're talking about going from where we were living in Canada, where I would say, I'm going to be working in Celsius right now, but we're talking 8 months out of the year, an average temperature of minus 15 degrees Celsius, coming into Texas where it was January. And I think we were working about 20 degrees Celsius and 25 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Celsius, 35 degrees Celsius. I can't get over just how warm it is over here and how hot and sunny it is and everything. Kind of compared to what our usual norm was. The weather in England when we went there was pretty similar to some communities we've lived in before. Although I would say, well, what was something we used to always joke about when we went to in England? The restaurants were the funny part there. That was something that was a really big culture shock the first time we went and we dined out. We came and we sat down for 15 minutes. And we're like, this is weird. Like no one served us. Like we haven't seen anyone. And then I saw something like, excuse me, like, do we get a menu and stuff? They're like, well, did you go order at the bar? And I'm like, well, was I supposed to? And she's like, well, you're not around from here, are you? And I'm like, well, what gave me away? And she's like, well, you talk funny. And she's like, all right. And it was kind of ironic because she says, are you from America? You have a Texan accent. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm from Canada, Alberta. She goes, oh, well, you guys talk the same. There must be something connected with you. But anyway, she then explained to me, it's like, so when you come here, you go to the bar, you order your food, you pay for it, and then we bring it to you. And like that just shocked me like crazy. And then, of course, I'm trying to leave a tip at the end. That was funny, too, because they're looking at me like, well, you left your money on the table. Oh, no, that's a gratuity. Oh, no, that was built into your bill. You've already paid the gratuity. You don't need to tip us twice. And I'm like, I paid you already. Go, yeah, we built that into the bill. Like, like the part here. And they're like, well, didn't you wonder why your food was so expensive? And of course, like we only been there for about a week. So I'm just like, honestly, like I'm still trying to figure out the conversion from Canadian dollars to British pounds. I'm like, okay, I get this now. And we had a lot of little moments like that we were getting used to there. But I definitely say coming to Texas, the weather has been the biggest adjustment. Like we're loving it. I mean, we play hockey. I'm going from rinks where I used to have my winter boots on, the big winter coat and my gloves, walking back and forth, like warming up my truck, going back into the arena, coming back out. But we just played hockey today. So I'm coming out. I've got flip-flops on and shorts and my sunglasses, and I've got my hockey bag on my shoulder. And it's amazing.
Living the best of all worlds right there. That's perfect. So what was it that brought you guys to Texas?
My job.
So first time was his job. Now it's your job. So that's a happy marriage. So talk to us about that. It is. Talk to us about that.
I got an amazing opportunity to come teach geometry at one of the Title I schools down here. And we were all set to go, and then COVID hit, and there was some bumps along the way and some delays, but they waited for me. And that was huge for me, because to come into a school where they value you and to come into a school where they want you there 100% and you feel that it's such a game changer when it comes to your own mental well-being.
I've been there as well. I understand. I've actually moved across the country for the same reason. I've said before, when people move, there are often two reasons. They're either running from or they're running to. And sometimes both happen simultaneously. But it makes it a whole lot easier when there is something like that to run to, when there's somebody or something that has its arms open wide for you saying, come to me. And we need you as much as you need us. And you might not know it yet, but it becomes this symbiotic relationship where you both grow together, sort of like, help me move my dishwasher and then we'll see what happens, right? It's the same kind of thing. Help us change
3 kids later.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. So Jared, I'm wondering, so she says, I've got this opportunity to go teach geometry. What is it, 2,500 miles away? And you just say, hey, let's go. I'm sure there's hockey there.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how it worked out, to be honest.
That's amazing.
It was a great opportunity for Katie. And I mean, I'm a mathematician myself too. So I got a chance to put some applications in. So, I mean, there was work for me. We had a conversation with our kids. We were showing some of the things they'd be able to do down here in the area. And, you kind of saw their eyes, get big and glow, like looking at the zoos and some of the vacation sites. I mean, for me, I don't know, like Katie seems more on the professional side. I was a little more shallow. Like I was thinking like, this is a really nice temperature. Like I'm actually excited about this. Like I said before, I've got some friends who live in the States where I was like, this is like a day's drive in the truck, mind you, for us to go visit them. Like, that's really cool. And I mean, I'm a big Disneyland buff. So when I looked and said, okay, if I want to go to Disneyland or Disney World, I could literally drive this in a day. like one day, just get behind the wheel of the truck, and like we're there, you know, and we're on vacation. And like that's what really got me excited, like more than anything, was like thinking it's a really great opportunity professionally, but like looking at some of these access to like amenities and entertainment and cultural, like this is a whole new level of exposure. And that's really what was getting me excited about this move and opportunity for Katherine.
I love that perspective that right now, I mean, you're smack dab between Disneyland and Disney World. And to a lot of people living where you are, they're like, a day's drive. What are you thinking? Maybe a day's flight. But you're like, no, you don't understand. It is within reach now. So you're going for it. A little observation I just made, that the switch between Katherine and Katie happened multiple times during that little spiel that you just had, Jared. And when you say Katie, your eyes twinkle a little bit. It's almost like there's this yeah, exactly, like there's this blushing. It's this pride when you're speaking of Katie. It's like arm around her, just totally proud of Katie. And I just picked up on that just in that moment, and it doesn't exist, but you can see it. And it was interesting hearing the give and take between Katie and Katherine, and back and forth. Professionally, it was a great opportunity for Katherine. But me and Katie, we're within arm's reach of Disney World, and we're doing life together. And it's just really cool to see you guys truly embracing doing life together in the way that you are. So go ahead.
Like Katie has said many a time, she uses very different meanings with her name. And of course, you know, being a professional colleague, but also being her mate, like I've learned to sort of adapt to these situations. You know, no, I have to use Katherine, because if I start calling her Katie with her work friends, well, her work friends will think they can start calling her Katie. And of course, that, like, you know, that's can't always happen that way. So like it has to be a little more earned. So I've sort of learned over the years with Katie to adapt to these situations, and you have to use the right title based on the crowd that we're working with. And then of course from there, I really appreciate how you see it, because I make that joke often too. It's like there's all these stories about my wife, but the stories fit a narrative based on the name. And I got to be honest, Dave, that's pretty impressive. You picked up on that, because there's very few people in our circle who have noticed that, saying, okay, like, Jared, I'm going to stop you for a second here, and then ask the exact same questions you did. Why do you switch back and forth, and why are you doing it in these situations?
Well, it's the twinkle in your eye. So don't give me too much credit. It's truly the way that you speak. So well played. You're earning some good husband points there today.
His eyes are what got me. Hook, line, and sinker.
Me too. So there's competition now. Okay, so let's talk. You move because Katherine had an amazing opportunity professionally, and Jared, you're thinking, okay, Disney World's within reach. But if I'm right, Jared, you didn't have Texas certification. If I am seeing my messages correctly, that's something that's kind of like in the moment happening as we speak. But you were willing to say, let's do this for you. Did you just have faith in yourself that things would work out for you? Or is it faith in her that it was the right move?
I think it was a little of both. I think it was faith in her that this is the right move, that this is going to play perfectly into her professional development. And there's an amazing opportunity for us and our family, and also faith in myself, like that I would be able to go in and make this transition. You know, in terms of education, I mean, I have 4 university degrees. I have a bachelor's in math and computer science, my bachelor in educations. I have a master's in transformational leadership. So when I was looking at some of the steps they would have wanted me to take, I saw it as, well, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You know, like I fail a couple of tests, I maybe have to do some rewrites, get some tutoring, or try a different path. But I think for the most part with me, I didn't see it as an issue, that this is something we want to do, it's something we need to do. And it's just kind of one of those, I don't know how to say it, that you just rise to the moment sort of challenges. You know what you need to do, you're going to go get it done.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
You know what? He's very modest. I want to brag about him a little bit, because he just did one of his tests. Like, I was never in fear of him failing a single one of these exams. He just got results back from his last one, and he scored 100% on it.
That's epic. That's epic, because there are horror stories about these certification tests out there. Horror stories of people with amazing advanced degrees that can't pass those tests. And you're in there like, what? I'm going to say it's all that Canadian education that, we say the Canadians are the nicest people on the planet. I'm going to say they're also probably the smartest people on the planet. They can come down to Texas and whatever, just soak it all up and pass it all out. So the students that are going to be in your presence, you collectively, and that are surrounded by you right now, have an amazing opportunity to see their lives changed. Talk to me a little bit about what the future holds for you guys. So is this a long-term plan? Is this a step towards something else? What is the future?
This, I want to be visa permitting, my forever home. I'm working on my tan already year round since we've gotten here. I am also a big creature of the light. I have always said, and it's crazy how things happen in life and how different things just kind of pop up in your mind. But I've always said that I'm an endangered rainforest creature. I need the heat, and there's only one of me. Well, I've got the heat, and there's only one of me. So this is where I want to make my roots. The hospitality down here is unbelievable. The support for the school and even our kids' school is unreal. And the kids are adapting beautifully into the system, and they're welcomed. And it's just a overwhelmingly positive feeling that I want to continue to ride out.
So what does that look like for you, Jared? So she's extremely content and happy doing what she's doing. What about you?
I think I'm very similar right now. I mean, I'm really adapting to my school. I've got a large room. So I mean, like when I think about what I'm going to be doing as a professional, like I'm already mapping out where I'm going to be putting my vertical surfaces for writing, the projects that we need to do. I already have an arts teacher and a science teacher who are tapping me on the shoulder and saying like, would you be into collaboration? Like, if we did some of these math art projects that you were, showing one day to the kids, they were talking about that. Could we do that? Or like some of the data collection with science and tying that into some of their units there. So that's something there that I don't see. I mean, I've got a lot of big vision plans in terms of what I'm going to be doing there as a teacher. It's really similar to Catherine. It's all based on like how the visa situation works out. But I mean, like I said before, I've done my master's in transformational leadership. That's something that's been weighing back of my mind that at some point, like I've been a classroom teacher for almost 15 years. So at what point do I now start transcending that role? So I see that happening here in the next 3 years, that I'm going to go write my principal exams and I'm going to start applying for a leadership position and seeing, okay, well, I still want to help schools and I still want to support our communities and students, but I want to do that in a different role. And what's that going to look like?
Very cool. Now you said a 4-letter word. I'm not going to let you gloss over. Catherine heard you say it. I heard you say it. Listeners probably heard you say it. Maybe they might have stopped listening because you used a 4-letter word that we here in the States don't necessarily like to use all that much. It's a dirty word here in the States. You said data, whatever you want to say. I've done a couple hundred of these episodes now, and I can tell you that you are the first person to ever have a frequency chart, a frequency table behind you when we're recording. So obviously you love data. How do you pronounce data in Canada, aka England, aka Texas? Is it data or data?
So I got to be honest with you. I've been completely transformed on this since I went to England back and forth. I don't get it right anymore. Okay. Before that happened, data was always the name of an android on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and that's how I left it. And I said data. Okay. However, I've been in so many different places. I've heard it so many different ways. I got to be honest. I don't have any more consistency. It's one of those things where I actually will flip back and forth.
It's like it's the new Katie Catherine. It's the data. Got it. Okay.
But yeah, with the chart there, I mean, like I love the vertical surfaces, and as I said, my wife and I talked about some of our big activities with well-being and stuff. I look for any opportunity to do something that I think is good for your mind and good for your body, but also a learning experience. So like that up there one day, I love playing Pokemon Go. So I went out one day with my daughter. We were catching Pokemon. And this is, of course, during the beginning of the pandemic when we were doing at home learning. And she got this assignment to do just about representations and stuff. And I got to be honest, I had none of this stuff at home. And I was a little annoyed because I was just like, want to be running out to buy this stuff. Like we're being told to not go out, stay home, make your transportation limited. And I thought, and now I'm going to run to a store and I already know the shelves are going to be empty. I'm not going to find any of this stuff here. So we modified it a bit. And what I did is we went out and we did a really big family walk. And my daughter and I played Pokemon Go. And we caught all these Pokemon. And then we came back and we made a tally chart and we just started counting them. Like, okay, we got flying types, fire types. We found all these. And then I said, okay. And we started talking, like, we look at these like tally charts and what don't we like about this? And even like in my daughter's language, like it's confusing. Like, I don't like looking at all these numbers. It's like, okay, I like how you say that. And then she started saying that my teacher says that's why we make charts, because they're really easy to see. And people like charts because they have colors. So then we started doing that way. And that was sort of the assignment we made. This one here was sort of like a follow-up. Now, I've actually done this with my students, by the way. I've taken them outside. We're going to start learning outside, doing this. Get your smartphones out. I want you downloading this app. But the one we did up here was, she just asked one day, she says, Daddy, we're living in Dallas now. Can we do that activity again? And I said, I'd love to. Why do you want to do it? And she says, because I want to see if the Pokemon we catch in Dallas are different than in Canada. And we came back and we actually noticed we're seeing a lot of different Pokemon types. And then we started asking, well, why? And it's like, well, Canada's cold. So we get to find all these cold Pokemon. And there's like not a lot of like vegetation or bugs. So we're going to get these type. She goes, but here it's like really sunny. So we're going to get lots of bug Pokemon and it's hot. So we're going to get hot Pokemon like the fires. And oh, look at all these like trees by the valley. So we're going to get lots of grass Pokemon. And it was agreeing with our results. And I'm like, do you think they do this on purpose in the game? She's like, well, obviously, Daddy, like it has to match where it was, because why would you catch fire Pokemon in the Arctic? That doesn't make any sense.
That's amazing. It's again another one of those examples of, from obstacles you find opportunities. You found this opportunity not even just to make a tally chart, which is amazing, and to teach mathematical reasoning and data, that dirty D word, but then you're teaching synthesis and analysis and teaching how to compartmentalize and categorize, and it's brilliant. And then you brought it to your students as well. If it's good enough for your kid, it's good enough for all kids. Love that approach in so many levels. So in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, Pokemon is gone. How do you continue to do this? What are you going to recycle then?
Pokemon won't be gone in 5 to 10 years.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know what? And I think a lot of what you just said there, Dave, is what I do. I mean, I've done a lot of activities or podcasts or speak outs where I've shared some of these resources and spoken about them. I mean, I try and look at it as the essence of what I like to do. I mean, like, I think of it this way. If teachers ever come up to me and ask me about this, I've always said, I'll give you any lesson plan you want and ask for. It's yours. But that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. Like, what I want you to be thinking about, like, what were the 5 big things I did? So, like, I wanted to have an activity that led with well-being, social and emotional learning. I wanted to have something that connected to my personal interests and my story. And then something that would transfer to my students, like this is something we have in common, or, this is the start that's going to get you sharing your personal interests and story. And then it jumps into our curricular content where we start making all these connections to say, well, yeah, like, we could have done a PowerPoint and some note taken in a worksheet and we would have met all these outcomes, but we did this instead. And we met all those outcomes, and now we have all these other cool things going. So I think for me, I mean, I don't agree with you. Pokemon will still be here 5 to 10 years from now, and I'll still be doing that. But if there was something different, like an evolution of music videos or something different with augmented reality, or there was just a new game phrase that came out from Nintendo or Sony, like I would just take that and I would continue on with it.
Katherine, hearing this, is your heart Twitter pating, or are you thinking, oh my gosh, he's going again? Are you guys in sync on the Pokemon gaming thing?
Yeah, we have, both of us are on it and we're friends. We've got our daughter on it and we're just waiting till our middle child is a little bit older and can handle the technology before we sign him up onto the account. And once all 5 of us are on, then we can go battle any raid ever known to man.
That's awesome. Hamilton versus the world. I love it. So we've covered a lot so far in your journey. We've talked about moving dishwashers in, and you guys meeting, to moving across the world, moving back, moving to another continent, moving to another country. We've talked about certification issues. We've talked about visa. We've talked about Pokemon. What am I missing in your story I feel like we've covered a lot. Are there any holes in this that I'm missing that you thinking, Dave, you missed the most important piece of us?
I'd say the biggest thing that really allows us to do what we do so well is that we're each other's confidants. We work through absolutely everything together. Like he's my soulmate. I couldn't have found a better collaborator in anything that I work through. If I have questions on, like, maybe I'm not reaching a certain group of my students, I'll come up to him and go like, why is this not working? And we'll hash it out. We'll try it out. We'll guinea pig our kids. It's literally a whole family effort that's gone into this world of our teaching realm. But at the same time, we can pull away from it and just focus on our family world together too.
I think you just made a lot of people around the world jealous. Because that was so genuine. That wasn't like a stock answer. You know, when we talk about soulmates and confidants, sometimes we see this on Hallmark movies and we're like, I can never get that. You guys have it, to the point where literally one of you says, hey, I've got an opportunity on the other side of the world. You're like, okay, let's go. And the other one says, my turn. Okay, let's go. And the kids just go along with it and they flourish and they thrive. And you two speak a language that is unique to you, but relatable to everybody. And I adore you guys. I adore everything you guys have going. I mean, I'm so jealous and envious and just completely honored to be having this conversation. What is that secret sauce? I mean, it's not like you guys swiped left because you were in a room and all of your interests were aligned. It's a dishwasher. A dishwasher led to this.
I understood his jokes. He was cracking jokes and I giggled.
You were picking up. Okay. Huh.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, I think we were both relatively new to a new town. I mean, you're trying to make friends. Catherine's right. We were new people within the school. So like, it was easy for us to start talking to each other, sharing the stories that we were going through. Because we lived in the same building, it was easy for me, to kind of knock on Katie's door and say, do you want to come down and have a cup of coffee with me? I got to get another hour's work done before I go to bed. I know she's making the comment about the jokes, but I think what that was more sharing to the idea that, not that we had a similar sense of humor, but, like we watched similar television shows. I mean, there's some folks I've spoken to. There was a sci-fi comedy I loved growing up called Red Dwarf. And I say that to some people and they're like, what's that? And I said that the cage goes, you watched Red Dwarf? I'm like, well, yeah, like that was one of my favorite shows growing up. And I loved watching on the BBC. And then it got us talking about, sort of other comedies and movies that we'd watch, or appreciation for actors. I grew up in a poor family. My dad would have time off in the summer and he'd always buy cable because he wanted to watch his television shows. And during that time, it was always the TBS James Bond week where you'd have like the 2 weeks and you get all the James Bond films. So like my dad would watch them and I'd spend time with my dad. So I'd watch them religiously with them. So I knew all these movies, all the things, and very similar there. I'd find myself talking to some people and they'd be like, James, like, go watch James Bond. Like, that's old. Like, what are you, like a nerd? Like, you should be watching these movies instead. And then I had that conversation with Katie and she's like, that was like the exact same thing in my family. Like, we never had cable. We couldn't afford it, but we bought it during this time. These movies would come on and my mom and dad would dominate the TV. So it's like, if you wanted to watch TV, you watch this. And then it's like, you get an appreciation for it. You learn some of the mannerisms in the scripts. And then you get into the big debate, who's better, Sean Connery or Roger Moore? And
that's not a debate. That's not a debate.
For the record, Katie, it's Sean Connery.
Sean Connery all day long.
It is Sean Connery, but I'm sorry, Daniel Craig revitalized that role.
So you're not a Pierce Brosnan fan, huh? Okay.
He was Remington Steele.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
He was Remington Steele, and that did not jump over for Bond for me.
Okay. Fair enough. But yes, Sean Connery, not even a debate. So if that's all it took was him saying Sean Connery and you're like, oh, I'm in love. Let's go. Sweet. Okay. I'll remember that. It's all about Sean Connery. Got it. So I feel like this episode is is an interesting one, because normally when I have conversations with people on this podcast, we talk a lot about education and a little bit about life, but this was an episode where I feel like we kind of told your story. I don't want to just be cheesy and say your love story, but really that's what it is. And it's a story about life and transition and change and opportunity, and doing hard things, but doing them together, and this collaboration and relationship that will get you through absolutely anything. It's a powerful story. It's a powerful message that I think a lot of us need to hear. A lot of us that tend to think we can go through life alone. We can make decisions on our own. We can do things by ourselves, for ourselves. You are helping remind me and remind a lot of other people the purpose behind relationships. When we say relationships matter, this is why relationships matter. It's because life is meant to be together, and you guys are nailing that. But now I want you to think about through this lens. The entire world is listening to this episode. I don't know if you know this, but 7 billion people listen to every single one of these episodes, like literally the entire world. There might be 1 or 2 people living on Fiji that are hanging out in their little straw huts and swimming and snorkeling with dolphins or something, that maybe they're going to take this week off, but close to 7 billion people are listening to this. And they've heard your story, from dishwashers to Dallas. Oh, maybe that's going to be the title of this episode, from dishwashers to Dallas. I don't know. But they've heard that story, and they've heard all of your amazing wisdom. They've heard the magic that is the Hamilton family. But they know that the story is about to wrap up. They're picturing you standing on a stage in front of them, mic in your hand. You've just been captivating them for 40, 45 minutes, and you're about to walk off the stage and drop that mic, leaving it rattling, having them beg for more, maybe asking for an encore performance. But you also know that this is your opportunity to leave them with something. What is the Hamilton mic drop moment?
I think the big thing for Katherine and I comes down to storytelling. When you mentioned that, we spent all this time talking about our personal journey, and I loved your connection there. This is something we do all the time when we develop our lessons and we work with the communities and families we serve in education. Like, I go home and I find all these wonderful interests that I do with my family. That's my lesson planning. This is what I'm starting to think, like, this is a lesson. This is how I'm going to talk about math or statistics, or as you said, problem solving, critical thinking. This is how I brought that in based on who I am. I didn't spend 3 hours looking through textbooks, making flip charts, copying, pasting, making answer keys. I just found something that makes us happy as individuals. And I said, how do we use this to now teach these competencies and teach this content that we have to in our classrooms? And I think the big skill that we try and look at there too is, we don't want you just to keep it to what we're doing here. Like, this is an access point. We told you a story and you listened to what we said, which allowed us to do all these things. So at some point we're going to flip the script, and I want you to start telling your story and sharing with me how you use this to make things. We do a really great unit where we do pixelation. So we make all these characters with Mario and squares. I use that to talk about area, probability, statistics, everything. Again, the video game design. I'll talk about history of video games with my kids. Like, look at the data. Like, how did Nintendo go from being #1 and Sony took over? Because it's not what Sony did right. It's what Nintendo did wrong. Now think about that. And then getting like a collaboration moment with some social studies teachers to say, what are the big skills we want them to take away from this? Because this is what we want them using as they go through their part here. And then getting the kids to come back and say, this is a story that I heard, or like, my grandma, she does cross stitch, and I started cross stitching these pixel characters and everything like that. Or getting them to do baking. I mean, one of the coolest things I think I ever saw when we did the Pixel Mario was one of my kids went home and their mom was a cupcake decorator. And she showed like the big map we did. I actually have one up on the wall here that I did with my daughter. And like, her daughter was showing her mom, like, no, like, place out the cupcakes and color them like this. She came in showing this to me, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then all of a sudden her mom had this on her menu, and she was selling these, like, give me a design, I'm going to pixelate them and I'll make it like this and I'll send them out this way. And like, just the moment from that and being able to talk about like the life skills, the impact, the novelty, the business model behind it. Like, to me, it was the storytelling element that allowed us to get into all those curricular competencies. And that's why I think what we really push with us is if you focus on your well-being first and the things that make you special as an individual, that's what you're going to bring into the classroom the following day to teach your students, and then also help them learn, go home and do the same thing so they can come back and do it again with you in the classroom.
I feel like I'm supposed to be saying something now, but that defeats the whole purpose of a mic drop moment, because you nailed it. It's the story that you just defined so well. And Katherine, I think you do have something to follow up on that. I'm not even going to try to capture. So
We told our story. Now it's your turn.
boom, boom, challenge accepted, people. If you are listening to this and you're not now fired up to go out there and do something, to create a story that you can tell, to shape destinies, to change lives by going out there and being you and allowing you to be enough to change the world, and then telling others about it, man, I don't know what you've been listening to for the last 45 minutes, because I feel like I need to dust myself off and just go start preaching on the corner this message. You guys absolutely nailed it. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm so glad we got to hang out a little bit here tonight and tell your story, to hear your story, to learn more about you and what makes you amazing. Because I feel like it's going to empower so many other people to embrace who they are and to go tell their story. You guys are absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here tonight.
Thank you again for having us as guest, Dave. This is a lot of fun. And actually, this is the first one we've ever did. I got to be honest, our kids behaved the whole time. We didn't have a single run-in during the whole presentation.
That's awesome. Did you threaten him and say, hey, Dave's going to come down and take care of you if you don't get it together? Or
we took them to the pool for 3 hours in the hot sun and just played them out. I don't think they got any energy left in them to run around or get into mischief.
That's awesome. Well, I don't know if you want to get out there and see what they're actually up to now, or if you just want to ride this out and act like you're doing the podcast for the next few hours and see how long you can do this. But I tell them, I said thank you as well, because this was absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much.